This is a response to TektontV's video entitled Public Service Announcement. I put a link to the video in the description box below should you care to view it. Holding's video is a response to a recent video I made regarding his justification of the treatment of female captives in Deuteronomy 21. Let's address the claims of Holding's latest video. In my initial response to Holding, I used Deuteronomy 20:10-19 as part of my rebuttal. Holding called foul on this because he said the passage has nothing to do with his video. This, like many of Holding's claims, is just plain inaccurate. In Deuteronomy, there are two main passages in which the laws of war are discussed. Those, of course, occur in Deuteronomy 20 and 21. Some scholars have even suggested that, at one time, the passages actually existed next to each other. Regardless of whether this is true or not, it is obvious that the two passages are very much related. Deuteronomy 20:10-14 discusses the treatment of captive women. Now, where did these captive women come from? Well, that answer can be found in Deuteronomy 20, which discusses taking women as captive of war. Holding cannot isolate one law from its greater context and then call foul when I couple them together. This is just plain ridiculous. When he finally does address Deuteronomy 20, Holding makes the argument that women were not taken as spoils of war, as I suggested. What was his main argument for this? Well, the King James Version states that the Jews were to eat the spoils. Although the Hebrew word for eat does exist in the text, its meaning can be both literal and figurative. For instance, I could say that I'm going to eat Holding alive without resorting to cannibalism. Also, it's important to note that spoils don't solely refer to food, as Holding suggests, but can also refer to about anything, including gold and silver. Using Holding's interpretation, we would have to assume that the Jews were going to eat the gold and silver they took from the city. Because of this, most of the reliable translations don't use the word eat, but instead refer collectively to all of the things taken as plunder, and the Jews are to enjoy that plunder. I would expect a knowledgeable scholar to know this, so either Holding is ignorant of this or just being dishonest. Next, Holding totally dismisses Deuteronomy 20:16-19 from his response by saying it has nothing to do with the topic. However, this is a continuation of the laws of war. These are part of the laws that Holding claims are better than others of the day. It's obvious why Holding doesn't want to address this passage, as it shatters his claim that women weren't indiscriminately killed. This passage provides an explicit command to kill all humans in the area the Jews were taking. This, of course, included both women and children. It seems to me that an honest scholar would admit this, but Holding doesn't. Next, in an attempt to show that the captive women weren't raped, Holding indicates that all marriages of that time period were arranged, and some cultures still arrange marriages today. An indictment of this passage would be an indictment on all cultures with arranged marriages. I think that there are many of these arranged marriages in which the wife does willingly have sex with her husband. However, I would say that any situation in which women are forced to have sex constitutes rape. This even includes today's cultures. The question here is whether or not these captive women were forced to have sex. I think the answer is obvious. Consider this. You are a woman and your parents have just been killed. In fact, they were killed by the very man who now wants to have sex with you. Would you willingly have sex with him? Or might you do so only because of fear? Finally, in my initial response to Holding, I criticized his claim that laws like those in Deuteronomy 21 were an improvement over existing laws of the day. Not only did I demonstrate that they really weren't much of an improvement since women were still being dehumanized, raped, and killed, I also made another claim. I said that even if those laws were an improvement, they still weren't good enough if the lawmaker was God. In his response, Holding called this my dumbest comment. He said that humans were best trained by an incremental approach. Well, if this is true, as Holding claims, then shouldn't this incremental approach be used for all of the laws of Deuteronomy? For instance, if God wanted to stop something such as kidnapping a fellow Jew, then wouldn't the incremental approach be a punishment less than death? Shouldn't the individual be able to kidnap one time, but that's it? I mean, that's better than many times, right? The fact is that Holding uses this incremental approach theory as the only way to justify the heinous acts that God obviously didn't find so heinous. The God of the Old Testament condoned genocide, slavery, and rape. That's a problem that isn't so easily explained away to a rational person. Take care, and let me know what you think.